Okay, so we are out here with the Shimano Antares DC. Just doing a little on the water impressions, seeing how it casts and retrieves and whatnot. And I've decided to pair it up with the Shimano Poison Glorious 6'9" Vanquish model. And yeah, I thought it'd be more fitting than putting it on that cheap MEGABASS RYOGA that I usually use. So I'm gonna try to get a feel for the different modes, the line modes that is. I'm gonna start on, since I'm using monofilament, I'm gonna put the mode to nylon or NM right there. And I'm going to put it on maximum externally. Now, of course, this doesn't have a spool tension, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to start off with a bigger square bill. This is about a ½ an ounce right here. So let's see how this goes. Okay, since there's no spool tension, I want to see just how fast this lure falls. Yeah, so the lure hit the water and then this happened. So that tells me this is a loose, pretty loose spool tension. So Shimano, of course, they want you to rely pretty much all on the DC braking system. Now, it would suck if I couldn't pick this backlash out. So basically, one of my intention today is to see if there's any real difference in the braid mode versus nylon mode for distance casting. So it's kind of been a I don't know, differing stories on which mode casts farther. Damn it. This line is coily as hell. I pulled it straight off of another reel, so we'll see. Okay, first cast on the Antares DC. Okay, not too bad. I can feel a little bit of a resistance on this square bill, but I don't really feel the wobble that much. I can tell you guys right now, this is not a small reel. It is not going to palm like a METANIUM or ALDEBARAN or even a CURADO. This is a big reel and it sits pretty high, and I can tell. Now the DC whine definitely is not as loud as I thought it would be. I don't know if that's good or bad yet. I think the one on the Scorpion, it makes more noise. Yeah, but winding in this square bill is pretty effortless. So let's go down one click. I can tell you this much, with the spool tension knob gone, you're gonna have to really be vigilant with your thumb on these lower settings. Now I got the 7.4 to 1 gear ratio, the high gear, but it's pulling in this crank pretty easy. So I'm not really wowed by the distance so far, but I'm not really able to just lean back and heave one out just yet because I'm on it's pretty steep back here. On my backstroke, I'll definitely hit the ground. Okay, so this is nylon mode or monofilament mode for us American guys. And the distance definitely is nothing to write home about so far. So let's see if I can go down. Ooh, I see a kingfisher. Let me go down one more. Spool is still controlled. Distance maybe went farther by a few feet. Let me go down one more. Shit. Okay. It's starting to get out there now. I'd say about 30 yards. Now this is a medium heavy, not a medium. So it's not loading up quite as good as that Megabass. So we're gonna go down a little bit more. Okay, there's some wind coming in. Let's see what happens. Okay, we're going down one more. I don't know, can you guys tell if that's going any further? Spool is still really controlled. I think I can go down even further. Let's try. Okay, you can see the spool was starting to get unruly there. Kind of sorted itself out in the end. Okay, so I think I've reached the limit of the external brakes. Okay, so I can kind of get a little bit better cast here. Yep, I think I've reached the limit, and I probably should have put fresh line on instead of spooling this from another reel where it's been sitting, but oh well. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to, in fact, we were one from the lowest setting, so I'm gonna go all the way from maximum, cast a few times, then go all the way to the lowest setting and see if we see a difference. See if it goes any farther. Okay, let's go all the way down to that lowest setting and see what happens. Okay, that didn't look like it went any further to me. Nope, it looked like it went about the same. Probably about 30 yards. Maybe 35. Okay, let's go down to the lowest setting. You know what? Actually, that was not the right setting. Okay, still, the distance was not anything to write home about, at least in this mode. Okay, we are going to go open up the side plate and stick it into braid mode. See if that gives us more distance. Okay, so we're on braid mode with maximum on the outside dial. Let's turn it down. 2 clicks. Okay, so far not too impressed. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can go down one more. I don't think it's gonna turn out good, but we'll find out. Okay, so of course I don't have another reel next to me to reference this against, but not too impressed so far. Now I did forget that we have the extreme distance mode still to go. That this is not the Scorpion DC brake system. So let's go to extreme distance, which is going to be that X. So hopefully this will let us see a difference. And I'm going to turn this all the way up. Whoa, I blew that up. So yeah, that is minimum braking. And I might not be able to pick this out. Okay, so that was extreme distance mode with the dial on maximum. So if I can't even do it with the dial on maximum, that tells me that this nylon or this mono is not good for the extreme distance mode. Okay, let's try one more time with some thumbing. Yeah, the extreme distance mode is definitely not one you want to use for normal lures. You're probably going to use that for really, really heavy aerodynamic lures like metal jigs and spoons. Maybe really, really good casting topwater. But something like a 1/2 ounce square bill crankbait on monofilament, you're not going to be able to do much with it. So we're going to go back down to the braid mode for a couple more minutes, and then we'll try a different lure. Okay, so let's back it down. 2 clicks. Here's something that I've noticed, that the external dial adjustment, it only makes a clicking sound going one way. So I don't know if you guys can hear, but going from maximum to minimum does not make a noise, but going from minimum to maximum makes a click. I don't know if that's purposely like that or if mine is just defective. Okay, let us try a different lure. Something that's gonna fly a little bit better. And that, of course, is the gunfish topwater. Okay, we are casting the gunfish 95. I think it's like 3/8 of an ounce. They should cast much better than that square bill. Let's find out. Definitely flies through the air more. And you definitely need to remember to use your thumb. Now, with a lot of other reels, you can set the spool tension tight enough to where you don't have to use your thumb to stop the spool once the lure hits the water. But of course, that's not the case with this one, at least in braid mode. Okay, so here's a chance to see. Now, right now, it's not uncomfortable walking the dog, but I don't think I would want to use this for extended periods of time for a walk the dog style lure. Okay. Okay, that solves overruns, but the distance was nothing to write home about. So, just let you guys know, the spool tension from the factory, I can feel a wobble here. Probably 1/8 of a millimeter, maybe less, maybe more, but it's definitely set really loose. Okay, so basically what I'm finding out is that this Antares DC is not the most beginner friendly reel. It's not a reel for beginners. Now the Scorpion DC, that's a different story. That reel is really user friendly as far as setup, etc., etc. In fact, the other reels that I've thrown this topwater on may be getting more distance than this DC. Of course, I was using a lighter powered rod that loaded this lure a lot better, but okay, that's better. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, let's see if we can go down one more. Okay, I'd say that's going about 40 yards, maybe less. One more. Okay, so a couple more casts, and I'm gonna see if this thing can cast like a 1/4 ounce lure any good. Okay, we're going to go down one more. Okay, that was a mistake. Okay, we're gonna try this 1/4 ounce square bill that I always use. Now, the lower limit of the rod is 1/4 ounce, so it's not gonna load this very well, but we're gonna try it anyway. Yep, the rod tip barely even bends. So that means more brake. So I'm gonna go all the way to maximum. Okay, that's not bad at all. Let's keep going down. So it handles a 1/4 ounce square bill pretty good. Even though this rod is not really loading up for the square bill. Makes me think I can go lower on the setting. Okay, and one thing I can tell you guys that I think the CURADO K has more power than this. Because reeling in this 1/4 ounce square bill, it is pretty effortless, but just in my mind, reeling in the same square bill on the CURADO was noticeably, there was noticeably less effort required. Okay, so I think I went down a little too far. So with a better rod, I'd probably get more distance, but I don't think it'd be that much more. So as it stands now, these normal line modes, fluoro, mono, braid, as far as distance goes, at least what I can extract out of it with these lures is not that impressive. Okay, I think I got a good sense of this reel. It's time to go back in and give my thoughts. Okay, so back from out on the water for the first time with the Antares DC, and I guess the best way to sum up that experience was with one word, and that's underwhelming. And it's underwhelming in the fact that while it did cast those lures pretty good, I guess I expected more, and maybe I expected too much, because you know, a lure's only going to go so far. And there were a couple other factors involved. I changed the rod out. I usually use a medium power MEGABASS HYUGA that's got a slower taper. This is a medium heavy Poison Glorious that's made more for bottom contact, so it's got a faster taper than the HYUGA. And the line I used was pretty old, and it was already spooled up on another reel, and I just basically just transferred that line directly from that reel to this reel. But no excuses. I was pretty underwhelmed by the casting performance so far of the 2016 Antares DC, considering the price and all the hype around this reel. But yeah, let's go over a couple of things real quick. Now, the first thing is there's no getting over that this is a big reel and it sits really high on the reel seat. Now, that affected my casting. I need to get a little bit more used to it. And coming from really low profile reels like ALDEBARANs and METANIUMs and even CURADOs, it does definitely take some getting used to. Now, it's not heavy, but it's a handful. Look at this thing. In fact, let me compare this to a METANIUM MGL. Okay, so I brought out the MGL. Now, physically, the MGL is not a super small reel. It is pretty long, but as you can see, compared to the Antares, it is much smaller. Well, noticeably smaller. I wouldn't say much. And let's take a look at the height. So if I try to line up the reel foot parallel, you'll see the METANIUM is a lot lower than the Antares. And that's the result of having such a huge spool, 37mm spool in there. So you kind of need a tall body. So yeah, another thing that I noticed was that the DC whine was not as loud as, let's say, the Scorpion, at least that I can remember. And I mean, that's not a bad or good thing. And another thing is that as we know, the spool tension is not there anymore. Now, there is a screw that Shimano put on the inside that if you really wanted to, you can adjust it with a screwdriver, but I'm thinking they want you to leave it alone. So that being said, when you press the thumb bar, as you can see, when I let the lure drop, it caused a big backlash. And when I press the thumb bar, I can tell you that this has a silent tune, but there is a little bit of wiggle. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. There's a little bit of side-to-side play on the spool. So it is set very, very loose. So Shimano definitely wants you to use the braking for everything. Now, that being said, this is not a beginner-friendly reel. You're gonna have to really keep your eye out when the lure hits the water to use your thumb to stop the spool. Now, I never used the fluorocarbon mode, so I couldn't tell you how strong the braking was, but the braid mode and the mono mode they seem pretty similar to each other. There's not much of a difference there. And of course, as you saw with the extreme distance mode, there was very little braking, and none of the lures were heavy enough or aerodynamic enough to really take advantage of that. Now, it did cast a 1/4 ounce square bill a lot better than I thought, so that's good. And basically, we will not know how good this casts in relation to the other reels until I take it out on the test field and get some measurements. So until then, as it stands, so far, the 2016 Antares DC has been pretty underwhelming.